Let me ask you a question. Why do some people with the same education, the same opportunities, and the same 24 hours end up living entirely different lives? One becomes wealthy, fulfilled, and respected. The other struggles, complains, and barely gets by. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's not even talent. The real difference is philosophy, because until you change the way you think, you'll keep repeating the same patterns, just in different years. Your income, your relationships, your habits, all are shaped by one invisible force, your personal philosophy. Jim Rohn said, if you change, everything will change for you. And that change doesn't begin in your job or your schedule, it begins in your mind. So today, let's talk about how to do exactly that. How to change your philosophy and change your life. 1. The hidden power of philosophy. Most people never examine their philosophy. They live on autopilot, repeating thoughts and habits passed down by family, friends, or society. And they wonder why life feels predictable, limited, or unfair. But here's the truth. Nothing changes until thinking changes. If you believe opportunity is scarce, you'll never see abundance, even when it's right in front of you. If you believe success is for others, you'll unconsciously sabotage your own chances. Your philosophy shapes your perception, and your perception determines your actions, and your actions, over time, build your destiny. So, when Jim Rohn said, change your philosophy, change your life, he was giving you the master key, not a motivational slogan, a formula. 2. The two philosophies. There are only two philosophies in life. One says, life happens to me. The other says, life happens for me. The first leads to blame, frustration, and excuses. The second leads to growth, curiosity, and progress. The first person says, I can't help it. That's just how it is. The second says, maybe I can learn, adjust, and make it better. You can spot the difference immediately. The first waits for opportunity. The second creates it. The first blames the government, the economy, the boss. The second says, while they argue about politics, I'll work on my skills. And the miracle is, the moment you switch from victim to student, everything begins to shift. Your energy changes. Your results follow. 3. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. Jim Rohn often said, you can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. You can't control the weather, the economy, or other people, but you can always control your philosophy. When winter comes, and it always does, most people complain about the cold. But the wise prepare. They sharpen their tools, store their crops, and get stronger. When spring arrives, most people hesitate. But the wise plant quickly, because they know the season will pass. The difference isn't the season, it's the philosophy. Some see struggle as punishment, others see it as preparation. Some see work as pain, others see it as progress. Same world, same time, same tools, completely different outcomes, because it all begins in the mind. 4. The law of sowing and reaping. Everything you do is a seed. Every thought, every word, every action, all of it planted in the soil of time. And the harvest you receive tomorrow depends on what you're planting today. If your philosophy is lazy, careless, or entitled, your harvest will be weeds. If your philosophy is disciplined, grateful, and curious, your harvest will be rich and full. That's not punishment, that's law. The law of sowing and reaping doesn't care who you are. It only cares what you plant. So ask yourself, what seeds am I planting today with my thoughts and habits? Am I planting excuses or am I planting effort? Am I planting doubt or am I planting belief? Because life is fair to those who understand this law. Not fair in the short term, fair in the long term. The harvest always matches the seed. 5. The shift. When you truly grasp this, something beautiful happens. You stop asking life for guarantees, and you start asking yourself for growth. That's when your philosophy matures. You stop waiting to feel lucky. You start deciding to feel responsible. You stop blaming the soil. You start studying the seed. You stop saying, why me? Rebuilding the mindset. Now that we understand why philosophy matters, let's talk about how to rebuild it. Because transformation doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. You can't just wake up one morning and hope your thinking will magically improve. You have to decide intentionally to rebuild your mental foundation. And it starts with the questions you ask yourself every single day. 1. Questions that shape your life. Jim Rohn said, "Successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers." Most people ask small, powerless questions. Why is life so hard? Why don't I ever get a break? Why do they have it easier? But leaders, thinkers, doers, achievers ask different ones. What can I learn from this? How can I turn this setback into an advantage? What can I do today that will make me proud a year from now? Your mind is like a search engine. It will find whatever you ask it to find. Ask it to look for excuses, and it will return a list of them. Ask it to look for opportunity, and it will find hidden doors. So, if you want to change your philosophy, change your questions first. Start challenging your own limits. Instead of saying, "I can't afford it," say, "How can I afford it?" Instead of saying, "That's impossible," say, "What would it take to make it possible?" Your words are blueprints. Every time you speak about limitations, you build a wall. Every time you speak of possibility, you open a door. 2. The power of personal responsibility. A mature philosophy begins with ownership. Jim Rohn often said, "You must take personal responsibility. You cannot change the circumstances, the seasons, or the wind, but you can change yourself." Most people spend their energy managing blame, not progress. They point fingers instead of planting seeds. But every minute spent blaming is a minute not spent building. Here's a truth that might sting a little, but it's the truth that frees you. You are exactly where your past decisions have brought you, and you will be exactly where your current decisions lead you. When you accept that, life stops being heavy, because now you have power. You no longer wait for a raise. You develop your skills. You no longer wait for motivation. You build discipline. You no longer wait for permission. You create opportunity. That's the shift from emotional reaction to intellectual leadership. From employee of life to CEO of your own destiny. 3. The circle of association. There's another element of philosophy that most overlook. Your environment. Jim Rohn said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." That means your income, your mindset, your attitude, even your level of happiness, all influenced by your circle. If you spend time with complainers, you'll start seeing life as unfair. If you spend time with builders, you'll start seeing life as a challenge to be conquered. Your philosophy grows in the soil you plant it in. So ask yourself, who's in my circle? Are they expanding me or shrinking me? Are they inspiring me to think bigger or encouraging me to settle smaller? Sometimes you don't need new goals and you need new company, because the environment is stronger than willpower. Change the room and the room will change you. Surround yourself with people who make you raise your standards. Who talk about ideas, not gossip. Who reminds you of your potential, not your past. That's how you keep your philosophy growing in the right direction. 4. Feeding the mind. Jim Rohn believed in the daily disciplines, small, consistent acts that compound into greatness. He said, "Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. So what are you feeding your mind? Every book, every video, every conversation, it's all nourishment. And like your body, your mind becomes what you consume. If you feed it negativity, it grows doubt. If you feed it wisdom, it grows strength." Most people spend hours feeding entertainment, but minutes feeding growth. And then they wonder why they feel empty. Rohn used to say, "Miss a meal if you must, but don't miss your reading." Because reading is how you meet the mentors you'll never meet in person. It's how you sit down with the greatest minds in history and borrow their philosophy. Make it a habit to learn every day, even if it's just 10 pages, one podcast, or one idea. Over time, your new inputs will form a new identity. Remember this: if you want a different life, you need a different library. 5. The danger of drifting. If you don't decide your philosophy, the world will decide it for you. And the world doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about your attention. Drifting is easy. Scrolling is easy. Complaining is easy. But it's the easy path that leads to a hard life. The hard path, The path of study, reflection, discipline leads to freedom. Every day, people with great potential waste it because they never pause to ask, what do I actually believe? What rules am I living by? When you drift, you surrender your future to chance. When you decide your philosophy, you reclaim your power. So stop drifting. Anchor your mind in principles that matter. Honesty, consistency, gratitude, discipline. Those are timeless. Those never go out of style. Because when your philosophy is rooted in truth, life becomes stable, even when the world isn't. 6. The compound effect. Small changes in thinking lead to massive results over time. You don't need a total overhaul overnight. You just need consistent refinement, a little more gratitude each day, a little more focus, a little more awareness. Jim Rohn taught that success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day, while failure is simply a few small errors in judgment repeated every day. Both feel the same at first, until time multiplies them. So be careful with your thoughts. Guard your mind as carefully as you guard your money, because every thought you think is a vote for the person you are becoming, the new you. By now you understand something most people never will. Change doesn't start with motivation. It starts with philosophy. Once you shift the way you think, everything else starts falling into place. Your habits adjust, your confidence grows, your decisions improve, and the world begins to respond differently to you. Not because the world changed, but because you did. 1. The mirror test. Jim Rohn used to say, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." That's not arrogance, that's accountability. He taught that your life is always a reflection of your philosophy. If you want to know how you're really thinking, look at your results. They're the mirror. If you don't like what you see, don't smash the mirror, change the reflection. That's what successful people do. They don't run from reality. They learn from it. They treat results as feedback, not failure. When something doesn't work, they don't complain. They ask, what part of my philosophy led me here? Was it impatience? Was it fear? Was it lack of preparation? Then they adjust. And because they adjust, they evolve. And because they evolve, they win. You can't outperform your own philosophy. You can't live a millionaire's life with a minimum wage mindset. Upgrade your thinking, and your entire experience of life upgrades with it. 2. The 4 cornerstones of a strong philosophy. Rohn often broke life down into simple principles. If you want your new philosophy to stand strong, build it on these 4 cornerstones. 1. Responsibility. You are the architect of your future. Not your boss, not your parents, not the economy. You. 2. Discipline. Do what's necessary whether you feel like it or not. Discipline is the difference between what you want now and what you want most. 3. Gratitude. A thankful heart sees opportunity where others see obstacle. Gratitude multiplies everything it touches. 4. Growth. Never stop learning, never stop improving. Because the day you stop growing is the day you start dying. These 4 ideas will build a philosophy that can weather any storm. They turn confusion into clarity and fear into fuel. 3. Designing your own philosophy. Your philosophy shouldn't just be something you copy from a book. It should be something you design, because nobody else lives your life. Ask yourself, what do I stand for? What values guide my choices? What's non-negotiable for me? Maybe your philosophy becomes, work hard, stay humble, live grateful. Or always learn, always give, never quit. Whatever it is, write it down. Memorize it. Let it become your compass. Because when you live by principle instead of impulse, your life gains direction. You stop getting lost in the noise. You stop chasing trends. And you start building something that lasts. 4. Turning philosophy into practice. A philosophy is only powerful when you live it. Ideas don't change lives. Application does. So here's a daily routine to strengthen your new philosophy. Morning. Read or listen to something that feeds your mind. Just 10 minutes of wisdom before the world wakes up. Daytime. Practice awareness. Catch yourself in negative patterns. Replace complaints with gratitude. Evening. Reflect. Ask, what did I learn today? How did I grow? Those 3 habits, learn, practice, reflect, will turn philosophy into progress. In a few weeks, you'll notice your attitude changing. In a few months, your results will start catching up. And in a few years, you won't even recognize the person you used to be. Remember, success doesn't happen someday. It happens daily. It's built one decision, one thought, one action at a time. 5. The final lesson. Jim Rohn said, "Don't let your learning lead to knowledge. Let your learning lead to action." That's the ultimate secret. Learning without action is entertainment. Learning with action is transformation. So don't just nod your head and agree with these ideas. Live them. Build a new standard for yourself. Raise your expectations. Demand more from your mind. Because when you change your philosophy, you change what you expect from life. And when you change what you expect, life rises to meet you. You stop chasing happiness and start creating it. You stop waiting for opportunity and start attracting it. You stop asking for direction and start becoming the compass. That's when you'll realize the secret of success was never outside of you. It was always within you, waiting for you to believe something new. 6. The closing thought. Let's finish where we began. Why do two people with the same chances end up worlds apart? It's not luck. It's philosophy. One person says, "I hope something good happens." The other says, "I'll make something good happen." One sees failure as the end. The other sees failure as feedback. One spends life reacting. The other spends life creating. And that difference, that subtle, invisible difference in thinking, creates two entirely different worlds. So today, make a decision. Decide to change your philosophy. Decide to see yourself as the designer, not the victim. Decide to think like the person you want to become before you become them. Because the moment your mind expands, your world follows. Remember, my friend, change your philosophy and you change your life.